Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Keveneknes, a Norwegian guitar player based in Nashville, Tennessee. Now please excuse the MIA on the most recent video. This one, it's taken a while. As many of you may know, Nashville was hit by a huge tornado and I was kind of living right in the heart of it. I'm gonna show you a little clip I took just driving down the street next to me. And there's even way worse footage online, and my thoughts are really with anybody affected by the tornado. We really lucked out. We didn't have power for the past 6 days. Also, this lovely sound for hours regularly. And the apartment building had some damage to it. I live on the second floor. This is a huge complex with 300 to 400 apartments. It expands over an entire block, really, and on the second floor I could feel the entire apartment shake. Very different experience for me to experience that, but today in my second vlog episode, I'm taking you guys to this amazing independent builder here in Nashville, and he's going to show us how he hand makes his own guitar pedals. Let's go for a trip to AWOL Pedals. Alright, so we're here with my buddy Aaron of AWOL Pedals. What's up? And he's going to show us how to build pedals.
So basically, what happens is you get a board. This is a different version, but you get a board. These come from JLC PCB. And I fill in the parts. So I have a sheet on my phone that basically has a BOM, or bill of materials is what it's called, and basically that tells you what part is what. Like R1 is 10K or R2 is like 22K or something like that, and it'll tell you what the designation is for each part, and then it's kind of like a paint by number, and you just put it together by however many parts there are on the circuit, and then put the corresponding parts in. This is my current Nano Booster, like one of the most recent builds of it. Basically, if you zoom out, you can kind of see the general design of it if you're familiar with the pedal at all. And basically, it's a mirror, because this is what you would see if you looked in the back of the pedal. But you can toggle what's visible. So if you open up the pedal, this is what you'll see. Basically, you'll see a place where the foot switch is, your in and out jack, this is your volume pot, this is the power, and these are all your through-hole components. There's your LED. So this is what you'll see when you open it. Yeah, the prototyping phase is really fun. Like arguably the most fun part of the pedal, because you get to make it really your own and really play with the sound. Like literally just like play with the sound and hear what does what. And sometimes you change something, you're like, I don't hear much of a difference, and then you can kind of go up or down in value from there, or like change the routing of the circuit and stuff like that. So that's arguably the most fun part about building the pedal is. I try to make it as interactive as possible for me. So like change one, that means one component at a time. Change it and hear literally how it sounds. How does it sound like with a very high value? How does it sound with a very low value? And then start doing combinations. Like how does this pedal sound with a high input cap? How does it sound with no input cap or a very small input cap? How does that sound with that resistor change? And so really like doing it one step at a time and then plugging into the amp and hearing it is like really important, because that's like the thing that grounds you to what it's all about anyways, and like making sure it sounds like a good pedal. So this is a board. This was like when we were doing some test fittings. This is just a board with board mounted jacks and a board mounted pot. It doesn't have power in it yet or a foot switch. This was like one of the ones we did where we were trying to figure out like how it fit together and whatnot. So that's kind of just like a half done pedal. And all these up here are like protos and like some of the earlier ones. But yeah, they're all like kind of like that.
So is that just to not let it burn out?
That's actually like solder. So it doesn't like melt away immediately or whatever. But yeah, basically go like that, tap it. It's good. Then I can just use like regular solder and then do the other side. Like that. And then you just kind of clean it up. Iron. You know? It's like extra solder and stuff. Alright. And I just like a little dab on there. You can be really messy with it because the solder only flows to where the traces are and where there's like metal exposed. It won't stick to the middle of the board, you know? So like you just do that. Right. Just like that, see? So it's on half of it, just like that. And then I hit the other half with just like a regular piece of solder.
So what are those little things that you...
So those are resistors that I just put on. So like,
tiny.
Yeah, all right. And they go smaller than this too. These are like one of the more easy to work with sizes of surface mount.
Did you ever fry them when learning this?
I've never fried a surface mount part. I just don't. You're way more likely to drop them and they disappear into nothingness because you can't find them again than you are to like break them. That's like, in fact, that happens to me way more often that they just like disappear. Hold it on there and that. It's pretty straightforward.
Can't believe the finesse that you need to do that though.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's tricky. So that's most of the surface mount stuff. I just have the capacitor left, but first I actually do the diode just because it's a little easier. So the diode's a through hole part, just because this is the polarity protection diode. So this protects against plugging in the wrong power supply, like inverted, like center positive or whatever, and breaking the pedal. So this one's not surface mount, so that if it blows when somebody inevitably plugs in the wrong power supply, and I need to repair their pedal, I can just desolder that and put a new one in.
Oh, sweet.
So that's why that's not surface mount. Much quicker.
Yeah, it's not as small too.
It's so much.
What is that?
That is an electrolytic capacitor, but it's surface mount. So it's like slightly different shape and whatnot, but they're still pretty easy to solder. Yeah, and the caps are hard because like there's so much underneath that you don't know if it got cleared. So for something like that, I usually just tap it with the multimeter to make sure it's like not having a perfect contact between the two, and that 5.4 is typically normal of that cap. So we're good. I think again, the solder wants to go in the right place on a board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it wants to go flow only where it's supposed to go.
Do you burn your fingers ever?
Yes, sometimes. It's not fun, but it does happen. So with the hardware components, I solder only like half of them, like that.
Oh, okay.
And then,
How come?
just because it wiggles a little bit more and has a little bit more play, then
okay.
I put it together and then I solder it. Like,
okay.
So like, you know, so it can be really flush and exactly the way I want it. But yeah, that's like, so that's ready. The pot goes next. For instance, same thing, just do the middle. Right, so that's ready. Then the switch, usually use a little trick for this. So do this. Just like that. And now the switch is in there. Just the center though, of course. The LED goes in next, but we don't solder it. Put the LED in. And we just kind of like pinch it a little bit so that it doesn't fall out. You know what I mean? Like that.
So how do you know the length that you need to keep it at?
I don't. I just kind of guess.
Okay.
But then because it's like that, it has wiggle room. So
Yeah.
I basically put that one in loose because the LED is kind of the hardest to
Yeah.
maneuver in terms of where it needs to be.
And just solder it after.
Just solder it after, exactly. I soldered most of the stuff from the back at the end. So that's all done. What I do now is, instead of soldering the jacks on, I have found that it's actually easier for me to put them on loosely, like so. Yep. Not even that tight, like pretty loose, like that. And then just drop the board on top of it instead. Sometimes, because the jacks are kind of finicky too, they want to like, you want to have them pretty perfect.
Yeah.
And like pretty lined up at the slots. So like the leads, or rather where it mounts to the board, it has a little bit of play in the holes, you know. But once if you put them on there and it's just like sturdy, sometimes it doesn't fit perfectly, and you can kind of mitigate that a little bit. So usually try to get the LED to poke through. Yeah, like that, like so. The LED to poke through. Then what's first is I tighten everything in order before I solder it, so that it kind of sits where it wants to sit. Use this thing. With hand tight. Don't force it, but don't be weak with it either. Just kind of get it to where it needs to go. You want the board to be pretty flat.
Yeah.
Like across. You want it to be pretty parallel with the like the inner wall of the enclosure, kind of like that.
Yeah.
So it fits good, and also that makes it so the switch stands like at a 90-degree angle up instead of like slightly crooked. Because if it's slightly crooked, it's more likely to break. And basically, you kind of move and manipulate the board such that the power jack and everything else like sits really well and is kind of floating where you want it to. The trick I do is I take a power cable, you know, and I can use it to move the jack around a little bit. So like, I can use it to see how it lines up, and it lines up pretty well right now. So yeah, it's lining up pretty well. So then I get these situated, tighten those to the best of my abilities. Make sure the LED is good. Make sure the power jack looks decent. And then I solder, because then it's a little bit more solidified. That's like where everything is.
And it's gone where it wants.
Yeah, exactly. So like that, and then, yep. And then I kind of look at it from the side, see, make sure the jacks are doing their thing. This one could be a little bit more up. If that all looks good, and it looks pretty good. The switch is a little low still, but for the most part, I actually think I can tighten that up a little bit better. Take your solder and start making the rounds. So instead of soldering one part all at once, I kind of do them in rotation to avoid the parts heating up too much. It's a pedal. So basically, now we clip the LED. We clip some of the other stuff too. Just like that. And that's the pedal. Clipping it helps them not like poke through to the lid, so that the lid can go on and be flush like that. Which is also why I usually put a, I just call it a cookie or like a biscuit. It's just a rectangle or a shape in there that's just a piece of cardboard that helps it from not grounding out against itself.
That's crazy.
And that's the pedal. But first things first, does it light up? It does.
Well, there you have it. It's quite the piece of artwork that goes into making this little pedal here, from all the visual arts to also just the board inside and what kind of components each individual pedal builder chooses to build. So that's what makes every pedal from every pedal company very different. It's kind of tweaked to the likings of a pedal builder. So what's very cool about that, in my opinion, is if you find a pedal builder that builds a lot of the stuff that you like, then chances are that you're going to love a lot of their other stuff. And without anything else to say on this vlog episode, let me know what you thought about it in the comments field below. Let me know what you want to see next. Give me some ideas if you want to keep the vlogging going, or if you hate it, then let me know about that too. And until then, I'll see you later.